The best thing I've ever done for my kids had nothing to do with them. I moved to Spain for me, not for them. And what they got in the process, I didn't plan any of it. So I want to be clear about something from the start, because I think it really matters. I hear a lot of mothers that move abroad frame it as a sacrifice that they made for their family. I'm not doing that. I moved because the math just stopped working. 25 years in corporate America, and I was still running just to stand still. I ran the numbers, and the numbers confirmed what I already knew. My kids were not the reason I moved, but I was thinking about the years. And if your kids are already grown, if they're out of the house, building their own lives, this is still your story. Because what I figured out wasn't just about them. I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but I started to realize I was in the countdown years. Once my daughter was 10 and my son was 8, I just realized I only have so many more years left with them before they're out of the house. That gave me a big wake-up call. What do these years actually look like? So not in theory, not in the version I was trying to tell myself that it was all fine, but what does it actually look like? I can tell you in California, the answer was simple: expensive, loud, and running and scrambling. I wanted a different answer, but here's something I didn't expect. When my kids first went to school here in Spain, all the classmates, the internationals, they kept asking one question. Not where in the US are you from? Not do you play football? It was, have you ever been in a school shooting? I'm not kidding. This is no joke. That was a genuine question from them all. They genuinely thought that is just something associated with American schools. And it's just something that American kids had experienced. So yeah, my kids had done the drills. The windows on the outside of the elementary schools were darkened so no one could see inside. My son, even at 5, he was sent to the principal's office during one of these drills because he was in the closet with the entire class and he couldn't stop giggling because he was 5. They don't do those drills anymore. I just didn't realize how normalized that fear had become in our house until it was gone. And this is not a political statement. These are facts. That was real life in the US. So the thing that I optimized for is something you can measure. And I had gotten so good at managing fear that I had stopped asking whether that level of fear actually needed to exist at all. So here's something I want every mother of a teenager to hear. Let's go through this. 4 years at a UC is $160,000 a year. That's live-in, room and board. That's at a UC if your kid gets in, if you're lucky that your kid gets in. But otherwise, a private university is $2 to $3. I personally know families that are saving $200,000 to $400,000 for their kids' college education. But here's something that no one talks about, is that the education in Europe at an internationally ranked institution that costs somewhere between 8 and 15,000 euros, not a year, total. And I'm not sure if you realize this, but until I looked outside the frame of the US, most European bachelor degrees, they're only 3 years, not 4, not the typical of the US. In America, roughly a third of those 4 years are general education requirements, courses outside your major that every university in the country mandates. And I think it's a great thing to give them a breadth of all different types of topics. But European students, they cover that ground in secondary school. So they enter university already specialized. Degree isn't shorter because it's lesser. The system is built differently from the start. These are not backup plans. 3 years, internationally recognized universities at a fraction of what a single year at a private school in the States would cost you. Now that my kids are international, they're EU residency, they're growing up bilingual, hopefully getting there. That door would have cost me $200,000 to open. It's already open, but I did not plan that. I just stopped limiting the search to the United States and the math changed completely. If you want to talk about US versus Spain schools before university, there's a video here that will talk about it. But now I want to talk about the fear that nobody says out loud. The one that stops more people than money. And you can't make friends after 50, right? That's what we all hear. You'll be lonely, isolated, the American who never quite fits. But let me tell you what actually happened, what it looked like for us, me and my family. So school started on a Thursday. My daughter's second day of school, she went to the water park. My son's second day of school, they went to a lake. They didn't know a single person. My daughter was then invited to a birthday party on that Saturday, and that Sunday night, she came home, and this is 4 days after the first day of school, a water park trip, of course that was a blast, a birthday party, and Sunday she looked at me and she just said, I feel like I'm in a dream. My son, on the other hand, the next week he looked at me, he's like, Mom, they played tag at school. He's 12 at the time. And then a few days later, he comes home and he's like, Mom, tag is so fun. So he just kind of figured it in. And I have to come back to my daughter because after saying this was a dream, the week before we moved, she absolutely said, you are ruining my life, Mom. I accepted that as an apology. But here's what I want to say to you, because that's kids adapting one thing. People will always say kids are so adaptable. But let me tell you what a regular Sunday looks like for me. Not a special Sunday, just an average Sunday. I play paddle in the morning. There's this tournament format where you have to sign in and there are 20 people and you play for 90 minutes, you rotate, you get to know all these people. Or if I don't get in on time, I go hiking. There's a couple groups that I've also joined, one with Internations, another was through a friend, and it's just a group of people that all get together and go hiking. I don't know most of them, but I'm starting to know them. So the myth that you can't make friends after 50 is only true if you wait for the community to come to you. You do have to make an effort, but the infrastructure is here in Spain. There's paddle, hiking, the school community where all the parents are navigating the same foreign country at the same time. It's a neighborhood where people walk outside, they sit outside, they talk to each other. I want to say something to the mothers that are watching. You probably spent a significant part of your adult life modeling for your kids what it looks like to keep going, to handle the cost of living, the job pressure, the mental load of running an entire household while pretending that running to stand still is just what adults do. And you probably did it incredibly well. But there's something different you can model. I looked at something that wasn't working and I changed it. And that's what my kids watched me do. Not a midlife crisis, not a breakdown. It was a decision made on purpose with real numbers behind it. My daughter is 15 now. She's watching everything I do. And what she is watching right now is that the life you have at 50, it's not fixed. That you can look at the cost structure and rebuild it somewhere entirely different and come out the other side with a better version. If she does half of that by the time she's my age, I will count that as the best thing I ever gave her. But I want to be honest with you before I wrap up. A few months in, I had a GYN appointment. I definitely showed up so proud because I knew how to navigate where to park and how to check in with the machine and get a ticket. I was like, yeah, I got this. And then our dialogue where she was completely in Spanish and we were using an app to interpret. It was so fast, it was so technical, and this is medical language we're speaking of, that I left with a refilled prescription, but not an actual plan. And I went to my car and I cried. That was a real day. I did not trade a hard life for a perfect one. I traded a hard life for a structurally different one. So when I say most mornings, not everyone, but most of them, I am genuinely glad I stopped waiting for a better moment. That is true. If you've been a mother who's quietly running the numbers and knows something isn't sustainable, but hasn't let yourself look at what's outside the frame, this is what I would give you today. Take a peek outside the frame. Not because your kids need you to, because you deserve to see what's there. check out my Spain clarity guide. It's in the description, it's free. There's a 60-day plan in it, not a relocation checklist, not a sales pitch. It's going from, I'm seriously considering this, to, I know whether this is right for me or not. If you bring your bank statements, you can fill in your numbers right next to my actual numbers. If this is the first video you found, I make one every Sunday. Real numbers, real experience, not pretending any of this is easy. So subscribe if that's what you want in your feed. Happy Mother's Day. See you next Sunday.